You think you've got my number figured out? A motive born in drought and brevity. And if I'm not the soul of your design, I blatantly decline your remedy. Don't box me in, don't, or I'll leave. I'd rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine, I'd rather be pretty much anything else than your machine. Wasn't always just a single shade, a palette full of gray in reverie. And I can burn it brighter than the sun. I have a golden gun inside of me. Don't box me in, don't, or I'll leave. I'd rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine, I'd rather be pretty much anything else. And if I fall behind, ignoring all the signs, and if I lose the fight, I still rage against the night. Don't box I'd rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine, I'd rather be pretty much anything else than your machine.
Welcome to the Monday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Monday as much as that's possible. Thank you all for joining. I appreciate it. Folks, we definitely have a lot to talk about. Man, things have been crazy, to say the least. It's already been just a little over 2 weeks, and quite frankly, a lot of things are happening very quickly, and it is on purpose because it's quite difficult to track every little thing that's happening with this administration. So it is in fascist. It is in the fascist interest to move as quickly as possible. Otherwise, people might start catching on to what's happening, and you have to kind of move quickly. And by the time people realize what's happening, it's too late. It's already done. So that's kind of like what we're seeing here, kind of a blitzkrieg of fascism. And I mean, if I remember correctly, it only took Hitler maybe 2 months to completely dismember whatever democratic systems to the extent that they existed in the Weimar. He was able to do that in about 2 months. This is week 2, folks, and we are getting some pretty disturbing reports that are happening within this new administration. Michael Haster, welcome. Cognizant, welcome. Echo Ressa Dragon, welcome. Every day, new fascism. Yeah. And it's pretty freaking quick. And quite frankly, it has to be. Otherwise, people might start to catch on to what's happening. Man, where do we even start with this? Where do we even start with this thing? I gotta say, folks, it's not great. It's not good. And the realities that we are now facing is that this is not like Trump's first term. This is going to be like something we have, as far as like the folks here in living memory, we have not seen. We have not seen. So prepare yourselves, folks, because no one is coming to save you. No one is coming to save you, and the only way that we survive is together. I understand that that we might feel angry, scared, demoralized, frustrated, all of these things, and all of these things are valid. But now more than ever, it is important that we keep a calm and collected demeanor, to be able to make good decisions, and we need to be able to be prepared. We need to be able to be prepared to help each other, because together is how we survive this. Okay, it is not an exaggeration to say that fascism is here, and it is not an exaggeration to say that we need to prepare, and we need to be ready to have each other's back, because no one is coming to save us. Democrats are going along with most of it. Yeah, I mean, like the actual opposition, to the extent that it exists, has been just not there and not adequate. So yeah, I mean, we have Chuck Schumer tweeting about the freaking Super Bowl, man. Chuck Schumer tweeting about how much the cost of pizza is going to be during the Super Bowl. Look, bro, I don't care, man. There's the wealthiest man on the planet. Okay, not in the country. The wealthiest man on the planet has muscled his way into incredibly sensitive systems that run this country, and is now there. He has completed his takeover of government. These are not government employees that are accessing these systems that have everyone's very, very, very sensitive information. These are aides of Elon Musk, a raging inferno livid. I'm enjoying my new calming pastime, rubbing my recently shaved head. And STFU, remember, every day is FTSU Friday. Correct. The only thing that can possibly mitigate is systemic gross incompetence in the administration. Yeah, I mean, like, but that's a Hail Mary, and that's purely dependent on them screwing up, you know, which is quite possible given who's leading all this stuff. But like, man, it's not good. It's not good. All right, folks, let's get into it because we have a limited time. I'm already getting a headache, as it is. So let's just try to get through this. Thank you all for joining us here. If you want to support the channel, please continue to like the stream on YouTube and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thank you guys for doing that. If you haven't done so, please hit the follow button here. Consider joining the Discord. It's completely free, and you get to keep up with the channel. We have movie events, so join the Discord, subscribe to the Substack. It's completely free, and it really does help us out. If you want to support the channel directly, hit up the merch store and check and hit !tip if you want to support the channel directly. Let's get started, folks, because we got a lot. We got a lot, and I'm not sure how much we're going to be able to cover, but let's do it. Let's start here. Little catharsis, right?
My heart goes out to you.
And my heart goes out to you. God bless.
Two out of three of those Nazis who gave Hitler salutes actually faced repercussions for it. Care to guess which two? I'll give you a hint. It wasn't the one with all the money and all the power in the world. The woman, Laura Smith, was a Republican politician who was a town supervisor in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, that tracks. Like the moment he said that this was a Republican politician, that tracks. Yeah, that tracks. I mean, like at this point, the Republican Party is undeniably, without a shadow of a doubt, an openly fascist party. Okay? Like top to bottom, the Republican Party is an openly fascist party. This is not debatable. This is just who they are now, or who they've shown themselves to be.
Pennsylvania, and she was forced to resign after doing that because it sparked outrage and condemnation from her own colleagues. The priest.
In case anyone needs a reminder.
I'm great. Pop Brothers at Law. It's Shut the Fuck Up Friday. Of course, we review the script. What do you say when the cops first pull you over?
Why'd you pull me over?
Yeah, I like this one, actually. I actually like this one. Nice, short, sweet.
And when they ask questions?
Not discussing my day.
And they keep asking questions?
Am I being detained or am I free to go, sir?
And if detained, what do you say?
I invoke the fifth.
And then what do you do?
I shut the fuck up.
And remember, this is not meant to make sure you don't get arrested. It ensures that if you do get arrested, we have the best opportunity to prove that the cops violated your rights, did illegal searches, and other crazy things that they're not supposed to do. So you just let those cops do whatever they're gonna do, And if they're going to arrest you, they're going to arrest you.
So get high and fly, and don't drink and drive on Friday.
That is the tip of the day.
That's right. Mouselander, welcome. She immediately started backtracking to try to avoid the consequences. Didn't work. Ah.
Calvin Robinson was fired from his position at the Anglican Catholic Church and condemned by them in a public statement. Meanwhile, Elon Musk has faced no accountability whatsoever for his hate speech. In fact, he's being vociferously defended by conservatives, and media outlets are reporting on it as if it's some ambiguous thing, calling
Musk's straight arm gesture embraced by right-wing extremists, regardless of what he meant.
it a straight arm gesture as opposed to just calling it the Hitler salute that it was. Now, part of the reason why I suspect media is treading carefully here is because Elon Musk has a history of being very litigious, and he's hinted that he might sue Tim Walz for accurately describing it as a Nazi salute, and his mother has encouraged him to sue CNN for the same reason as well. Now, I, for one, refuse to engage in the pro-Nazi gaslighting that we're seeing. It was a Hitler salute. Period. And after Elon Musk gave...
It was a Hitler salute, man. Like, I don't care. Like, everybody saw it. I don't care. Join the YouTubes.
That Hitler salute, he spoke at a rally for Germany's AfD party, which is a neo-Nazi party, by the way, and he told the Nazis there that he was speaking to that they should move on from their past guilt. Yeah, but I just can't tell what he meant when he gave that straight arm gesture. And I love how even the people defending him are unwittingly proving that it was indeed a Hitler salute by refusing to do it themselves. Case in point.
Anybody who is asserting this thing he did on the stage the other day was a Sig Heil, which I just heard you say, you know, lawyer up maybe, because absolute ridiculous thing to say. Under no circumstances.
The Nazis in Germany thought it was a Sig Heil.
Under no circumstances
Heil.
was he doing anything other than expressing enthusiastically.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so do it live on air, man. Go for it.
Why don't you do it on TV right now?
His appreciation.
Why don't you do it on TV right now if you think it's so...
Number three.
So, you know, banal.
Number three.
I don't even know why they bring on these freaking clowns. That's how you know something is unacceptable. Wait for normal people to do it and watch the results.
Right, very convincing. But don't interrupt him. Let him finish his defense of the Nazi. Great job, CNN. Love the work that you're doing. But, you know, not to belabor this point any further, we're not stupid. We know what Elon Musk meant when he Sig Heiled. But he faced zero accountability, unlike the two other Nazis who gave the same salute. Why? Because he's rich and powerful, and they are not. Now, to be clear, I have no sympathy for the two non-powerful Nazis or any other Nazi who felt the courage to Sig Heil on social media after they saw Elon Musk do the same thing. Fuck around, find out. In this country, we treat Nazis the way that Indiana Jones treated them. And I hope that they all do to themselves what their leader did to himself. Not in Minecraft, by the way. And as this TikToker put it...
I'm seeing a ton of videos of people who are...
That's funny.
who are going through some major hardships right now because they tried to defend Elon Musk's weird little gesture on stage the other day, and so they repeated it on social media, and now they're losing their jobs, they're losing their livelihoods, they're getting tons of hate online, they're really going through a hard time. So to all those people out there, my heart goes out to you.
Yeah. My thoughts exactly. Fuck Nazis. But the reason why we're talking about this double standard is because it is indicative of everything that's currently happening in this country right now. We're seeing the rise of fascism as well as the rise of untouchable oligarchs like Elon Musk who have become more powerful than actual governments. And their wealth and power is only increasing. We're going to see the next trillionaire probably within the next decade. These things are not happening in a vacuum. It is all interconnected. It's related, right? The rise of fascism around the globe is the direct result of the collapse of capitalism that is now being accelerated by the class war oligarchs have been waging on the working class for decades. And the reason why capitalism always inevitably collapses into fascism is because when you reach late-stage capitalism, the conditions for ordinary people become so bad that they become susceptible to radicalization because of how desperate they are. And rather than improving material conditions for working people and throwing them a few crumbs, oligarchs instead choose to just double down on their wealth maxing and convince working people that marginalized groups are the ones to blame for everything that's wrong and not them. I mean, in the 1930s in Germany, Nazis blamed Jewish people, as well as queers and communists, for all of their economic woes. And Germany's AfD and France's National Front and America's Republicans are also blaming marginalized people. This time it's immigrants. It's also trans people. And their scapegoating of marginalized people is reinforced through an endless stream of propaganda where an anecdote of a crime committed by an immigrant, for example, is sensationalized and made out to be representative of that entire group.
Right, exactly. Like, that is super, super freaking, like, textbook, right? Like how the Nazis did their propaganda. I think I can't remember the source of this quote or discourse that was happening. Like, basically, like, the reason why like anyone who just doesn't want to stick up for one minority means that they're willing that means that they would be willing to put other minorities under the bus. So, like, everyone needs to protect everyone. This is not a drill. This is serious. I predicted the first trillionaire would be the one that captured an asteroid for resource extraction. Guess I was wrong. It's the plot to Don't Look Up.
And we're also seeing the same thing happen with trans people, where we're being told that they are a threat to women, or they're destroying sports and undermining our very way of life. And eventually Americans grow tired of picking on one particular group. For example, with gay people, they were told that, oh, they're going to destroy Western society and marriage for straight people, but none of those things actually came to fruition. So eventually they had to move on, and they always move on. They pick a new target and they do the same exact
it's the same rehashed BS playbook that has been deployed time and time again against minorities or people that they deemed others. That didn't watch that movie. You should. It's actually pretty good. So basically, just like one of the plot lines is that the asteroid coming to destroy the planet, and the scientists are trying to warn them. The technocrat is actually trying to enrich himself by mining that asteroid before it hits Earth.
Thing that they've always done. It's the same playbook. And when times are tough, people are especially inclined to believe these lies about marginalized people, since it's an explanation. Now, it may be the incorrect explanation, but it's an explanation nonetheless. But what I'm describing is the deliberate cultivation of fascism by the ruling class in order to wage class war in service of late-stage capitalism to their benefit. But the question is, why? Why does capitalism always inevitably collapse into fascism? And Professor Richard Wolff is going to give us an answer.
Yeah, so like basically like once you're at like late stage capitalism where people are becoming desperate, and this new demagogue gets into the political field saying, I've got an answer. It's actually these people that you need to be angry at. We should do something about this. And once that person comes into power, it doesn't matter. The oligarchs and the capital class think that they can control him, just like they thought that they can control Hitler until they couldn't.
Sir.
The capitalism that was normally perfectly happy with conventional representative electoral democracy was falling apart. The capitalism was producing such suffering, such anger, such bitterness among the mass of people that there was a developing anti-capitalist movement. And this scared the capitalist class.
Yeah, so much so that they were willing to turn to fascists who were explicitly anti-communist for this reason. Okay? Girl with Gun, thank you for the follow. Welcome. Thank you for the follow. Appreciate it. Many of the January 6 insurrectionists pardoned by Trump are registered offenders. Theodore Middendorf, David Daniel, Casey Hopkins, some of their victims were as young as 7 and 12. Yeah, I mean, this is not surprising, given that they're Republicans. Yeah.
The owners of the enterprises, the big CEOs, They could see the handwriting on the wall. In Italy, just before fascism, you had the greatest general strike in the history of the country in Torino, led by a then obscure communist named Antonio Gramsci, who becomes one of the great communist theoreticians of the 20th.
Hey, is America winning yet? Are we sick of winning? Oh my God, so much winning. Welcome back, Old Growth Canopy. Welcome back. So much winning, man. So much winning.
20th century terrified people. In 1917, a few years before, an anti-capitalist revolution in Russia succeeded, terrified capitalists everywhere in the world, here in the US too. So there was this sense it's falling apart, our system. And when that happens, there's a strong push, doesn't always succeed, but a strong push to push aside representative democracy, all of that, and have the iron heel, the iron fist. Change the government from that game to one where its job is to control the society, repress every critic of capitalism you can find, do it all in the name of the race or the nation or patriotism, to give it all a better sounding name than saying we're going to save capitalism by crushing everybody who disagrees with it, everybody who has turned against it. So it is done in the name of, well, the nation, nationalism. It's a good way of covering it over. Everything we're doing is not about preserving capitalism. That's the real agenda. It's about preserving the nature, or preserving white America, if you bring it over into us, or preserving the Italian soul, or preserving genuine Spain, whatever it was always the same.
And that is what we're seeing again. He goes on to explain how fascists went after labor unions and socialists and communists and crushed every opponent to capitalism, who would basically sound the alarm about the game that was being played. And we're also seeing that same thing again as well, right? Restrictions are also being imposed on freedom of speech, not just when it comes to the government censoring people, but also in the form of oligarchs scaring opponents into silence with defamation lawsuits like this guy does. Fascism is essential to maintaining capitalism in its most brutal and latest stage, because it is necessary to limit the type of politics that's acceptable, right? Questioning the ruling class, as Bernie Sanders did, that's not acceptable. So the ruling class spent heavily to destroy him. Attacking innocent immigrants, that is okay. Because if you're not looking at them, then it's cool if you look at somebody else. They don't care who, just pick a target and focus on them. That's what's happening. Fascism elevates a divisive form of politics and pits working class people against each other, so that way they never ever team up to take on the working class, which is why we see perpetual class warfare being waged. And this TikToker that we're going to watch is going to explain how American oligarchs have masterfully kept working people divided in perpetuity.
Could somebody help me understand, what is this obsession with trans people, the right?
Conservative politicians are capitalist, and under capitalism, you need to make more money so you can keep growing. And oftentimes this happens at the expense of quality of product or service, such as when a product becomes designed to break, so people have to keep buying it over and
the enshetification, if you will.
over again, or when a service starts to offer fewer and fewer features, but it costs more every single year. This can happen at the expense of morality, such as companies like Enron starting rolling blackouts in California so that they could generate more demand for electricity and therefore make more money for themselves, or the United Fruit Company disrupting elections in Latin America. However, it can also happen, especially when it comes to maintaining community, because the reality is that communities share resources with each other. And because people share resources with each other, they spend less money. Under capitalism, you benefit from separating people, because people, when they are separated, they need to spend more to provide for themselves, which makes them more profitable. This is known as market segmentation, and you can see it everywhere. For instance, there's products that are made for men and products that are made for women, even if they're the same overall, like shampoo. By selling two versions of products, you almost guarantee that every household will buy twice as many as they normally would if they were just one type. And The thing about conservative politicians is that they are primarily incentivized to do two things, which is lower taxes for the wealthy and deregulate markets so that companies can make more money with fewer checks and balances.
Correct.
And these are not very popular with the average American voter. People want to live in safe environments, and they don't want to lower taxes and give money to the wealthy. So, in order for conservative politicians to find ways to make this more palatable, they essentially need someone to blame. For instance, say that I was a congressman in like rural Pennsylvania, and my constituency is largely lower and middle class voters, and there's a bill put in Congress that would benefit these voters, but it would come at the expense of corporations that fund my campaign, so like a higher corporate tax rate or something. And I need these corporate donors because otherwise I won't get reelected. So I need to justify voting against this bill, and that would come at the expense of potentially antagonizing my voters, unless I can find a way to spin it. And I look at this and I realize, okay, this bill benefits everybody. So I can simply state, well, this bill would benefit trans people too, so therefore I shouldn't vote for this bill because it would be immoral. And that has worked in the past. That is what conservative politicians have done in order to justify voting against something that would benefit everyone. They highlight the fact that it would also benefit people that they personally dislike. Even further, say I'm that same congressman and my district has been consistently doing worse every single year that I've been in office, but my corporate donors are happy because they're doing very well for themselves and they want me to maintain the status quo. If I attempt to help my district out with some sort of bill, they will fund my opponent in a primary election and I will lose and I won't be back in Congress next term. For that reason, I fundamentally cannot help my voter base because if I do, I will lose re-election. So, essentially, I need to find ways to make it look like I'm being productive.
And that right there is...
Yeah, it's a negative feedback loop. It's a negative feedback loop.
Where you really start to see what divide and conquer looks like in practice. Politicians like Marjorie Taylor Greene or Nancy Mace will performatively scapegoat some marginalized group in order to make it seem as though they're fighting for their constituents, but they're doing that to obscure the real work that they're actually doing for their donors. And that TikToker gives multiple examples. One of them was Montana passed a border security bill that is completely irrelevant for obvious reasons, since they are nowhere near the border. And with regard to trans rights, states codify trans sports bans to make it look like they're defending girls' sports, often when there's no known trans athletes in the entire state. Like they're proposing solutions to problems that literally do not exist. For example...
Yeah, but it's like, it's the vibes, man. Maggot Food, welcome back.
During the height of hysteria over trans people in sports in 2021, the AP actually spoke to lawmakers in 20 states that were proposing these bans, and almost all of the policymakers that were proposing these laws couldn't cite a single example of one trans athlete disrupting their school sports. The following year, Kentucky banned the only trans athlete in the entire state from her middle school hockey team, even though the school didn't even offer hockey until she recruited enough girls to create a team. Great job, Kentucky Republicans. You've successfully saved girls' sports by banning the person who made the team from the team. Excellent work. But the goal...
Yeah, really solving the country's problems.
...is to distract you by throwing a vulnerable group under the bus. It gets working people to think that everything would be better without that one group. And it forces the rest of us to defend that group because culture wars are not victimless wars. They may be distractions, purposefully so, but they still have victims. There are serious consequences to the culture war. But understand that politicians have to play this game because it's the only thing that they can do to make it seem like they're representing us at all. You know, since they are terrified of what would happen if they actually did try to do something good for us and subvert the status quo. And, you know, they can't just say, fuck you, I'm going to do what my donors want, cope and seethe. So they have to put on some type of political theater to at least try to placate us, right? To keep the masses from picking up the pitchforks. And to be clear, the oligarchic nature of our government, it's not necessarily new, but it did used to be more subtle. But billionaires have become so brazen that they're publicly threatening politicians to do what they want, or they're going to face consequences. For example, billionaire Nicole Shanahan had a warning to senators who dared to vote against her anti-vax bestie, RFK Jr.
This hasn't been widely reported, but in 2020, I cut large checks to Chuck Schumer to help Democrats flip 2 Senate seats in Georgia from red to blue. The 2 candidates I helped elect, Senator Raphael Warnock and Senator Jon Ossoff. Please know I will be watching your votes very closely. I will make it my personal mission that you lose your seats in the Senate if you vote against the future health of America's children. And more than that, I also want to say to Senators Mitch McConnell,
Yeah, I mean, like, this shouldn't be allowed, man. Like, this shouldn't be allowed to have, like, private, like, oligarchs, billionaires, openly threaten politicians because our elections work the way they do. They can make good on their threat, and that's kind of the problem here. It's just absurd. It's just absurd.
Lindsey Graham, Lisa Markowski, Susan Collins, Bill Cassidy, Tom Tillis, James Lankford, Cory Booker, John Fetterman, Bernie Sanders, and Catherine Cortez Masto. This is a bipartisan message, and it comes directly from me. While Bobby may be willing to play nice, I won't. If you vote against him, I will personally fund challengers to primary you in your next election, and I will enlist hundreds of thousands to join me.
And to be clear, when she says that she'll enlist hundreds of thousands to join her, she means she's going to bankroll a massive propaganda campaign and fund AstroTurf if need be. Because normal people don't agree with a lot of the things that billionaires push. They are deeply unpopular, but since they have money, well, they can get their agendas actualized because money moves mountains, especially in late-stage capitalist systems. But just think about how unfair that is. If you support Medicare for all, or you want your senator to stop supporting a genocide, you have no leverage.
I want to tell you a story.
I used to believe that
You can vote or threaten to not vote, but they don't really give a shit, as we've seen. I mean, you can try to threaten them with a primary opponent yourself, but they know that you're not serious because you're broke as shit. And they know that you're broke as shit because they're the ones keeping you that way. So at the aggregate level, when you see all politicians respond this way to these threats, or react to these threats, I should say, what happens is we get a system where politicians listen exclusively to the ruling class, and they end up ignoring everything that the rest of us have to say. And that's not hyperbole, right?
That's
I'm not just
literally
using an anecdote and sensationalizing it like they do.
It's literally what's happening. Like, it's been a thing. It's just now, it's just now so brazen that we have the richest person on the planet inside the White House, looting, like, having access to the treasury. This is beyond, this is too much. This is crossing, this has crossed all the lines at this point.
This is actually political science data. In 2014, 2 Princeton professors found that regular citizens had a statistically insignificant impact on policy outcomes, but alternatively, policies supported by economic elites and interest groups did predominantly become law, because we effectively live in an oligarchy and the ruling class isn't even trying to hide it anymore. And to bring it back to Elon Musk, Bernie Sanders explained how directly involved he was in the legislative process, even though he wasn't elected by a single American.
Within the House of Representatives, the Republican House, and the Democratic Senate, there was widespread agreement on this resolution. And it was just about ready to be passed. In fact, the Republicans posted it on their website. We were ready to go. But then, out of nowhere, the wealthiest man in the world, Elon Musk, began tweeting his opposition to this legislation. In fact, he was very blunt about it. He told Republicans that if they voted for this proposal, which they had already agreed to do, he would take out his wallet and spend as much money as it took to defeat them in primaries and drive them out of office. You got that? Take a deep breath and appreciate what's going on here. The wealthiest person in the world, who spent at least $277 million to elect Donald Trump in a Republican Congress, has now claimed complete ownership of that party.
In other words, we are in the final stage of capitalism, and our
Yep. And now he's got, like, and now he's in the treasury. Tech bro coup, exactly.
Our government is no longer capable of serving anyone but the ruling class, and they could barely maintain the facade that they give a shit about what we want. And since so many crises have gone unaddressed for so long, Americans have grown increasingly desperate year after year after year, and their material conditions get worse and worse and worse. They're working longer hours for lower wages. Their quality of life has gone down. It's just bad, and it's getting worse. And this situation has led to the deliberate cultivation of fascism by oligarchs to distract and make sure that the anger that they're feeling is never directed onto elites like Elon Musk, but instead is directed onto their neighbors who happen to be immigrants or people of color. And while they got us all fighting each other, they're robbing us fucking blind. And you just have to look a little bit closer to see it. As Common Dreams reports, Kevin Hern, the chair of the Republican Party's Policy Committee, confirmed Wednesday that President Donald Trump's chaotic and destructive effort to slash federal funding, including key anti-poverty programs, is tied.
Yeah, this is just so messed up. This is disgusting. Elon Minge. This is so disgusting, man.
To the new administration's attempt to enact another round of tax cuts that would disproportionately benefit the rich and large corporations. Quote, if you're going to cut taxes and send money back home, then you also need to stop the spigot in Washington, D.C., Representative Kevin Hern told Politico. You can't do both. So he's basically giving away the game here. If you get rid of, say, the estate tax, for example, and you let rich people pocket around $370 billion more throughout the next decade. Just by doing that, that's one of many things they will do to cut taxes for the rich. But if you just do that, that is $370 billion less dollars in revenue that the federal government is going to have. So how do you pay for that? You've got to make up that money from somewhere, right? So where do you cut? Do you take it from our defense budget? Of course not.
Nah, that would be too convenient.
Because, you know, these politicians are bankrolled by defense contractors. Some of them don't just take money from them in terms of campaign contributions, they have stake in them. They have investments in them. So what's on the chopping block? Well, Social Security. Up to $2 trillion in cuts to Medicaid. They're making you poorer so the rich can get richer. It is a straight up robbery. And before you can get too mad about it, they're going to try to convince you that trans people or immigrants are your real enemy. So, you know, if you look at them, you're not going to point the finger at those at the top, like Elon Musk, who are just straight up robbing you blind and laughing all the way to the bank. This is a class war, and your enemy is not immigrants or trans people or black people. It is the billionaire class. It's the oligarchs who are paying politicians to pickpocket you for them. They have it all, but it's not enough. They want more. They want to buy their 10th mansion, an 8th yacht. And the fascist politics that so many Americans have fallen for is nothing more than a ruse to get working class people to wage a war against themselves. So in conclusion, I don't want you to think that the return of Nazism and societal fascism is just a coincidence. The conditions that preceded the rise of Nazis in Germany in the 1930s are present once again. Not just in America, but around the globe. And on the micro level, we can address this by defending marginalized groups and fighting for social justice. And while we do that, we simultaneously have to try to foster class solidarity among our peers. And on the macro level, politicians, I'm looking at you Democrats, must address the underlying material conditions that made so many people susceptible to radicalization in the first place. You are not going to change people's material conditions by just making tweaks on the edges and incremental changes. You have to implement systemic change. Otherwise, things are only going to continue to deteriorate. That's why Bernie Sanders was so popular, because he wasn't just talking about small changes. He was talking about systemic reforms that would radically transform life for working Americans. That is where the Democratic Party needs to be if they actually want to thwart this threat of fascism.
Woke mob.
Yep.
Woke.
Jesus Save Justin. Thank you for the follow. Appreciate that.
Thanks very much for joining me. We are living in a dangerous and unprecedented moment in American history. And I'm getting a lot of calls from people who are not only upset about what's happening, but are wondering how we best go forward. Well, let me tell you, we've got to be smart, we've got to be organized, and we've got to fight back. This is not a time for wallowing in despair and hiding under the covers. The stakes are just too high. We're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for our kids, for future generations. We're fighting for the future of this planet. In the first 2 weeks of his presidency, Donald Trump defied the Constitution by ending birthright citizenship, fired government watchdogs, allowed drilling along our coastlines, pardoned violent insurrectionists, suspended all foreign aid, and tried to cut off virtually all federal funding. So, how do we go forward? First, to be effective, we've got to understand what, in fact, is happening around us right now. Second, we need a short-term strategy. What do we do tomorrow and the next day and the day after that? Third, we need a long-term strategy. How do we build a movement that gains political power? Here is, in my view, a brief overview as to what is happening under Trump. Most importantly, the move toward oligarchy in our country, government run by the rich and the powerful, is proceeding rapidly. And it's not being done secretly. A little over a week ago, Donald Trump was inaugurated for his second term. Standing right behind him were the three richest men in the world, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Mark Zuckerberg. Men who have become over $200 billion richer since Trump was elected and who now are worth almost $1 trillion more money than the bottom half of American society, 170 million people. But it's not just oligarchy that we should worry about. This country under Trump is moving rapidly toward authoritarianism. Just a few examples. In violation of the Constitution and federal law, Trump attempted the other day to suspend all federal grants and loans. That means he blocked funding for Medicaid, Head Start, food stamps, homeless veterans, etc., etc. Tens of millions of Americans.
Yep, it's here.
The most vulnerable people in our country were impacted by that decision. Fortunately, Americans all across the country stood up in outrage and said, no, no. And with the help of the courts, much, but not all of that freeze in funding was rescinded. You may have noticed that Trump is intimidating the media with lawsuits against ABC, CBS, Meta, and the Des Moines Register. If Trump does not like what media reports, he is threatening them with lawsuits, undermining the First Amendment. That is a direct movement toward authoritarianism.
Yep.
Now, that's a very broad overview of where we are today. In terms of short-term strategy, we've got to mobilize as strongly as we can against Trump's dangerous proposals. And let me just say this, importantly. Yes, the Republicans control the House and the Senate, but do not forget their majorities are small. In the House, a body of 435 members, they have a 4-vote majority. That is a razor-thin margin, and their legislation can be defeated. There are a number of Republicans out there who won in Democratic districts by small margin. So let me tell you, these guys do respond to phone calls and emails. So if there's a piece of legislation you disagree with, get on the phone and call the Capitol switchboard at 202-224-2131. And what is some of that legislation that we should be concerned about? Republicans right now are working on what's called a budget reconciliation bill. The most important element, which would be a massive tax break for the wealthy, to be paid for by large cuts in Medicaid and other programs that working.
So disgusting, man. It's so disgusting how these freaking ghouls operate.
Families and low-income people desperately need. At a time of unprecedented income and wealth inequality, when so many of our people are struggling to put food on the table, we must not savage programs for working families to provide huge tax breaks for billionaires. We must vigorously oppose Trump's efforts at mass deportation. Yes, we must strengthen our borders. Yes, we should deport people who have been convicted of serious crimes. But no, we cannot destroy families who have lived and worked in this country peacefully for decades. Not only is Trump's mass deportation program immoral, it will have a severely negative impact on our economy. As all of you know, we are seeing extreme weather disturbances and devastation in our country and all over the world related to climate change. Think about LA, think about North Carolina. We must vigorously oppose this absurd drill, baby, drill doctrine, which will only make an incredibly dangerous climate situation even worse. And those are just a few of the issues that are coming down the pike. But we cannot just play defense. We have got to be on the offense. Please never forget that the agenda that we are fighting for is widely supported by working families all across this country, and we must continue to fight for that agenda. The American people do not want cuts to Medicaid and the privatization of Medicaid.
Bipedal Meatbag, welcome. Since when did Trump care about morals? He doesn't. I think this is mostly honestly, I think this is mostly directed at this message is mostly directed at politicians so far. It sounds like he's actually talking to Democrats.
Medicare, they understand that healthcare is a human right, not a privilege. We must continue the struggle for Medicare for all so that every American has the health care that he or she needs. That's not a radical idea. That's what Americans want. Federal minimum wage of $7.25 an hour is a starvation wage. We must raise that minimum wage to a living wage, at least $17 an hour. If you work 40 hours a week in America, you should not be living in poverty. All over this country, we have a major housing crisis, and it's not just 800,000 who are homeless. It is millions of working families who are spending 40, 50, 60% of their limited incomes on housing. Instead of spending almost $1 trillion a year on a wasteful and bloated Pentagon budget, we have got to build millions of units of low-income and affordable housing. And when we do that, we put large numbers of people to work at good-paying union jobs. I could go on, but let me conclude by saying this.
Imagine if we had Bernie. Yeah, definitely better than... We would be definitely better than... definitely better off than Biden. Red states have some metrics of thin voting lines as we witness what states are trying to contest some of this reach.
The United States is the wealthiest nation in the history of the world. If we stand together and oppose right-wing efforts to divide us up by our race, by our religion, our sexual orientation, or where we were born, if we stand together, there is nothing that we cannot accomplish. Bottom line, let us go forward and fight for a government and an economy that works for all, not just the few. We simply do not have the luxury of moaning and groaning. We have got to stand up and fight back. We can do it. Let's go forward together. Thank you very much.
On that note, folks, if you haven't heard, there is a massive protest being planned in a couple days called the 50-50, 50 states for one day. I think it's 50501. You can check out their Blue Sky post. Basically, it is at every state capital. If I can find... pretty much in every state, 50 protests, 50 states, one day. Most of it is on the Capitol building, the state Capitol building. It's just because Dems suck at running their party. I hope we, the nation, think helping humans is getting us to great again and Don 78, so we better get moving. Almost like they lose on purpose. I looked, where is Oregon? Oklahoma has 2, but I don't see the Oregon flyer. I think it's in the state capital. Let me see if Madison State Capitol. New Jersey, South Dakota, Arizona, Michigan, Texas. Okay, Oregon. Is that who we're looking for? Yeah, it's in the state capitol building. I found it odd. Don't think I can make it since Salem is 5 hours away. Understood, no problem. So we do see what states do take the most government assistance, and we can see who leads them in poverty rates. Well, I can tell you this. We already know this. It's Republicans. What state is the GOP utopia? I'm not sure, but the point being is, red states take the most. And also it's always a 4 years Republican, 4 years Dem type of balance. I don't know. But the Republicans need to be destroyed politically. Florida? Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. So this is like actually one of the more alarming things, and I think that people really need to pay attention to this because like the actual like seriousness of this the actual seriousness of this cannot be understated. I was just seeing some comments of almost like they lose on purpose and just wondering where the GOP state is ranked in livability and what do they pay and take out. As Bernie told some truth there. Yeah, I mean, well, I can tell you, broadly speaking, that yes, red states do take more. Yeah, fascism. Elon Musk Doge Commission gains access to sensitive treasury payment systems. Like this is like by far one of the most serious of all the things that's been happening within the last couple weeks. This is by far one of the more serious ones. So when do you decide to help help veterans or homeless people? That's always been a position. I don't know what that means. That's always been the left's position. Wow, slow-moving coup by Elon. Welcome, Wolfglen. The Department of Government Efficiency, run by President Trump's billionaire advisor and Tesla CEO Elon Musk, has gained access to sensitive Treasury data, including Social Security and Medicare customer payment systems, according to people familiar with the situation. The move by DOJ, a Trump administration task force assigned to find ways to fire federal workers, cut programs, and slash federal regulations, means it could have wide leeway to access important taxpayer data, among other things. Like, here's the problem. Never mind, just how alarming this sounds. But also, to my knowledge, this person isn't officially a part of the government. Not officially, as of yet. I know that President Trump signed an executive order making DOJ like an official government department. But correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's Congress who can make that decision. But, so if you're a 20-year career employee and you cut, say, 30K people, what is this? What is this nonsense? Dude, I don't care. I'm sorry. This is bad sea lioning. Elon must have government power for 120 days. The New York Times first reported the news of the group's access to massive federal payment systems. The two people who spoke to the AP spoke on condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to speak publicly. What is recently is being said. The highest-ranking Democrat on the Senate Finance Committee, Ron Wyden of Oregon, on Friday sent a letter to Trump's Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent expressing concern that officials associated with Musk may have intended to access those payments to legally withhold payments to any number of programs. Oh man, I'm so glad. I'm so glad that we're getting strongly written letters of concern. To put it bluntly, these payments systems simply cannot fail, and any politically motivated meddling in them risks severe damage to our country and the economy. I'm so glad that this is the response of the Democratic Party, is to write letters. That's cool, man. 120 days. The news also comes after Treasury's acting Deputy Secretary, David Liebrecht, resigned from his position at Treasury after more than 30 years of service. The Washington Post on Friday reported that Liebrecht resigned his position after Musk and his DOJ goon squad requested access to sensitive Treasury data. The Fiscal Service performs some of the most vital functions in government, Liebrecht said in a letter to the Treasury employees sent out on Friday. Our work may be unknown to most of the public, but that doesn't mean it isn't exceptionally important. I'm grateful to have been able to work alongside some of the nation's best and most talented operations staff. The new one is that the DOJ may be sending a referral to FBI and folks attempting to block Elon and his group. Yeah, I saw that, I saw that they were trying to issue a threat if you try to stop Elon's Doge team. Yes, I did see that. Heat, how's it going? Welcome. Imagine being unable to sea lion correctly. Correct. Yeah, so if you're a 20-year career employee and you cut, say, 30K people, what 45% of sandwiches would be like? I'm sorry. I don't care. Musk Saturdays responded to a post on his social media platform X about the departure of Liebrecht. The Doge team discovered, among other things, the payment approval officers at the Treasury were instructed always to approve payments, even to known fraudulent or terrorist groups. They literally never denied a payment in their entire career, not even once. Of course, there was no proof of any of this claim. He just said so. Cool. Doge was originally headed by Musk and former Republican presidential candidate and venture capitalist Vivek Ramaswamy, who jointly vowed to cut billions from the federal budget and usher in, quote, massive mass headcount reductions across the federal bureaucracy. Cool, man. Awesome things are happening. Phenomenal. Honestly, like seriously, folks, that's possibly one of the more dangerous things that are happening when we have like the world's richest person gaining access to the treasury like this, to such sensitive systems like this. It's just like, it's just shocking. Not surprising, but shocking. It's just shocking. No one's stopping this guy. No one's stopping him. Congress isn't stopping him. I mean, there's no oversight. Like there's nothing is literally stopping this guy. A trillionaire. Yeah. Like nothing is stopping this guy. He's seen absolutely zero barriers. I mean, like, no one is imposing anything. No law enforcement is stopping him. In fact, the opposite. There's no investigations into what he's doing is legal or not. I mean, like, it's just it's just appalling. Biden had 4 years to stop him. Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree that, like, what part of the reason why we're here is because there's literally no effective opposition at all. I mean, like, you know, as I said earlier, you know, we have Chuck Schumer tweeting about the Super Bowl and pizza. I mean, so yeah, the opposition party is not there. I think during the Trump's last term, there was a ton of unfilled positions across government too. I'm sure it was worth inconveniencing all those people and taking people's jobs just to make a political point. Yeah. So there, like, that's exactly what I'm saying, Michael Hassler. There's no stopping him. There's nothing here. Nothing. Just a strongly worded letter of concern. I mean, like, you know, no one's coming here to save us. And it's up to us. So, yeah. It's still hard to believe that this moron won. Yep. Yeah, Chuck Schumer is a man of the people. That's right. A man of the people tweeting about the Super Bowl. How demure. Where's my screaming goat? Yeah.
Will the breaking news please just stop? It's too much. Canada and the U.S. have agreed to a deal to pause the tariffs for at least 30 days, hopefully forever. But
yeah, so I think this is the piggyback off this. Yeah, breaking news apparently. So in the span of what, 48 hours, we had like tariffs were happening Saturday. No, tariffs are happening tomorrow. No, tariffs are not happening. So yeah, Trump and leaders of Canada and Mexico say tariffs will be delayed 1 month after talks. Mexico's Clyde Sheinbaum and Canada's Justin Trudeau posted on social media about plans to police their borders. New tariffs on goods from China are still set to go into effect. Day after announcing a 25% tariff on imports of Canada and Mexico, President Trump agreed to delay them for 1 month after leaders from Canada and Mexico announced to move to ramp up security at their border, averting, at least for now, the tariffs that could drive up prices for U.S. consumers and stall the country's economies. Oh my God, man! It was the Kentucky booze ban. Yeah. Let me break it so I can attempt to fix it. Yeah, here we go. Putting out fires that he started. Thanks. Phenomenal stuff. So Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau wrote on social media today that Canada would be spending $1.3 billion on a plan to reinforce its border with new helicopters, technology, and personnel, as well as additional resources to stop the flow of fentanyl. Yeah, a known problem. Like, seriously, how much fentanyl? Like seriously, how much fentanyl it is actually being brought over from the Canadian border? Okay, how much fentanyl is actually being brought over aggregate? The answer, of course, is not much. 43 pounds. Yep. Cognizant got it. I saw it reported. Trump soon posted. Yeah, no, I'm serious. Like, that's actually the answer. Trump soon posted as well, focused on fentanyl and emphasizing tariffs would be paused for a 30-day period to see whether or not a final economic deal with Canada can be structured. Earlier in the day, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum posted on social media that Mexico immediately reinforced its northern border with 10,000 members of the National Guard to address drug trafficking from Mexico to U.S., particularly fentanyl. Like, are they just, like, entertaining, like, this guy just by, like, pretending to do something about it? I mean, like, seriously. The announcements come after Trump signed an executive order on Saturday to place a 25% tariff on nearly all goods coming into the U.S. from Canada and Mexico starting on Tuesday. The move risks triggering a trade war with two of America's closest trading partners that could have driven prices higher for American consumers on a range of goods, including cars, fresh produce, home building materials, and gasoline. Trump also placed a 10% tariff on all Chinese imports and took steps to close a loophole that allows Chinese e-commerce companies like Temu and Shein to avoid tariffs by shipping packages worth less than $800 into the U.S. duty-free. Those tariffs remain to be on track to go on Tuesday. So cool, we're still getting this. Yeah, 1 billion solution to 1,000 problem. Phenomenal. So that's cool. So those tariffs are still, like, honestly, like, this guy is going to single-handedly, like, screw over the shipping industry and the maritime industry that entails the amount of carriers that come in, because a lot of this stuff is coming from China. So cool. China said it will challenge the tariffs at the World Trade Organization and take unspecified countermeasures in response. Stocks fell on Monday morning in response to tariff announcements over the weekend, but recovered some of those losses following the agreement with Mexico. The U.S. imports more goods from Mexico than any other country, and economists and business groups have warned tariffs could raise prices in the U.S. and trigger an economic slowdown. So yeah, that's the last update that we have. Tariffs, no tariffs, then tariffs, but like a couple days afterwards, but then like no tariffs. So we're at the no tariff stage. And I guess David Dole just posted this less than half an hour ago because this is breaking news. So yeah, I suppose we'll see what happens. But seriously, this is just too much. But anyways. So back to what we were talking about. We have no coherent message. Democrats struggle to oppose Trump. I mean, like, more than 50 interviews with Democratic leaders revealed a party struggling to decide what it believes in and what issues to prioritize and how to confront an aggressive right-wing administration. Holy crap, we're cooked, folks. Ladies and gentlemen, if this is where we're at as the supposed quote unquote opposition party, if this is where we're at, like, we're cooked, ladies and gentlemen. We're cooked. So, yeah. I usually don't think too much about my 401k because it's not a whole lot, but I really should have moved my money before this shit took over. Yeah, honestly, I haven't even checked my quote-unquote retirement. So I don't even know if I want to check it, to be honest. It's not like I'll be seeing that money anytime soon, so might as well just forget about it for the next 4 years. Yeah, well, retirement, what's that? The peanuts that hopefully will be there instead of what should be a pension. Cool. So we talked about this whole debacle with federal funding that the Trump administration supposedly rescinded. However, some nonprofits say they still can't access federal funds despite blocking Trump's freeze. So he's defying effectively federal orders from a judge. So again, I ask, what is the checks and balances here? Like what's left here? Some forms of federal aid spending still appear to be frozen. A federal judge in Washington said Monday, despite a court order blocking the administration's funding pause, and the OMB's move last week to rescind its own memo announcing the policy. President Trump ordered a freeze on domestic and foreign federal aid last week in an effort to halt funding for causes that, quote, don't fit with his fascist agenda. But facing court challenges, the acting director of OMB walked it back a day later. Still, cases challenging the initial order are working their way through the courts. U.S. District Judge Lauren Alkine said during a hearing on Monday that she is inclined to grant a request from a coalition of nonprofit groups for a temporary restraining order requiring the government to release federal funds that have been frozen since last week. Ali Khan also said that she's leaning against granting a motion from the Justice Department to dismiss the lawsuit brought by nonprofits as moot due to the rescission of the OMB memo. We have individuals who are still having issues accessing the funding platforms, Ali Khan said, and that indicates to me that the memo is doing some work. Lawyers for the nonprofit submitted a collection of declarations from various small organizations. Yeah, the D word. It's okay. You're good. Don't worry about it. At least this time, Automodded, let me know, because, usually, sometimes it doesn't even let me know that it stopped a chatter's chat. So, whatever. As of Friday, 3 days after Ali Khan initially blocked the funding freeze, rural health centers, scientific research labs, child care facilities, and other organizations still had not received their expected funds, according to the declarations. The board president of West Virginia nonprofit that helps people with disabilities remain in their homes said in a declaration filed on Sunday that they've been waiting for federal funds to be deposited into the organization's account since January 29th, but have not received funds as of Sunday night. Quote, I'm desperate to bring attention to our situation, the board president wrote in the declaration. I cannot believe anyone would not want to help an 86-year-old woman get her dialysis sessions, or family with autism and intellectual disability to get help live on their own instead of being committed to an institution, question mark. You can't believe that anyone would not want to help. Yeah, well, those people are called Republicans, and they have no problems doing this to people without blinking an eye. The declaration notes in the past, quote, drawdown requests typically were deposited to our account immediately. Now, it continues, the center had enough money to meet payroll on Friday, January 31st, and to cover outstanding bills, but we did not have enough money on hand to cover another 2-week pay period at full staffing. Thus, on Friday of January 31st, the board of directors voted to lay off 3 of our 5 employees and drastically reduce service to our customers. This presented a dire situation for our customers who have immediate needs. The president and CEO of the National Council for Nonprofits filed a declaration with the court on Friday, outlining her concerns about the freeze. Quote, I heard from a significant number of our nonprofit members that they're still unable to access the disbursements, even after this court entered its administrative stay and after the OMB purported to rescind this memo, said Diane Yanto, wrote in the filing, I've heard it from enough that I'm concerned that challenges may still be widespread. In another declaration, the CEO of Rural Health Centers in one writes, I don't care about the political fight surrounding the OMB memo. I just want to help my health center staff care for our patients, but unless federal funding is restored, we will not be able to provide that care. Again, highlighting just like just the programs that are being hurt right now because of what Trump is doing. Off topic, but did you see Canada booing the U.S. anthem at a hockey game? Yes, actually, I was actually just watching the video from David Dole from the Rational National. I was just watching it. I think it was yesterday. I was just watching it, and you know how bad you have to be. You know how bad you have to screw up where you have Canadians booing your national anthem. Like, man, I mean that says it all to me. A temporary restraining order by Ali Khan, who said the rule by 5 p.m. She would rule by 5 p.m. Monday, wouldn't change the status quo, but it would echo the court order issued last week by a federal judge in Rhode Island in a separate case brought by 22 Democratic state attorney generals. So that's where we're at, folks. All right. We're going to quickly just go through this because I'm not sure how this is going to play out, honestly. The concept of a sovereign wealth fund is not new. But the possibilities for shenanigans and how to shovel money around, I see, especially with someone as corrupt as Trump, does not inspire a lot of confidence. I don't know what the end result will be of this, but I can't imagine this quote sovereign wealth fund is going to be like. Can you imagine, man? Like, if you see, this is what's so frustrating because, like, you know, in an alternate universe, right? In an alternate universe, we could have a situation where we could have a president, a Democratic president, who would open a sovereign wealth fund, to say, like, I don't know, make a universal healthcare program, or buy federal land to make sure it's protected, right? To make sure it's protected from corporations. I mean, like, but you know, instead we get this. Yeah, Trump is gonna raid it, no doubt about it. Instead we get this. Trump signs an order establishing a sovereign wealth fund that he says could buy TikTok. Here's a question though, like, Congress controls the purse, so like, how is this gonna work out? I'm not sure. I'm really not. President Trump today, on Monday, signed an executive order that outlines a plan. Oh, a concept of a plan, I guess. Outlines a plan for a government-run sovereign wealth fund to serve as an economic development tool and perhaps use that to buy TikTok. Phenomenal. Among the aims for the fund would be developing infrastructure such as airports, highways, universal healthcare systems. Anyways. And it could help the U.S. extend its influence in areas such as Panama and Greenland. It won't, but okay. We're going to stand this thing up within the next 12 months. We're going to monetize the asset side of the U.S. balance sheet for the American people, said U.S. Secretary Scott Bessent said during a media parlay. There'll be a combination of liquid assets that we have in this country as we work to bring them out for the American people. This, like, literally, that's a whole lot of words to say nothing, but okay. Sure, bud. There was no other details for a fund, Trump said during his campaign, could back great national endeavors. He had said tariffs could help provide funding. Other nations use taxes on national resources, financial transactions, and carbon use as funding mechanisms. as a discussed deal in which the U.S. would become a partner in social media platform TikTok would be one potential use. Trump said the app was taken offline briefly amid security concerns, but Trump signed an order allowing it back on for a 75-day period, during which it likely will have to divest itself from Chinese interests, ? Though the idea of such U.S. funds have been brought up before, the vehicles are generally used by smaller nations with vast natural resources as well as a fiscal surplus to deploy, unlike the U.S., which is running massive budget deficits. Nations with the funds include China, Norway, and Singapore. A U.S. fund could help it compete with those countries and might make the government less dependent on issuing treasury debt to raise money. Norway has the largest sovereign fund, wealth fund with more than $1.7 trillion in assets, according to the Sovereign Wealth Fund Institute. The China Investment Corp follows with $1.3 trillion. These funds are involved in global financial markets through investments in stock, bonds, and real estate, along with stakes in infrastructure and private equity. Critics say lack of transparency can lead to conflicts and corruption if there are not strict governance rules, which I suspect that will be the case because, of course, this is Trump we're talking about. So they don't want TikTok to be controlled by the Chinese government, so they will instead be it will instead be controlled by the U.S. government. Right. That's what their ideal scenario would be. Right. They want to be the arbiters of that they want to be the arbiters of that platform because they know it's quite powerful and it reaches a lot of people. All right, folks, we got one more. Trump administration ends temporary deportation protection for 350,000 Venezuelans. Yep. President Trump administration is ending protections that shielded roughly 350,000 Venezuelans from deportation, leaving them with 2 months before they lose their right to work in the United States. Homeland Security and known dog killer Kristi Noem order affected 348,202 Venezuelans living in the U.S. with temporary protected status, slated to expire in April. That's about half of the approximate 600,000 who have this protection. The remaining protections are set to expire at the end of September. That rules out Mr. Wonderful. He's Canadian. The termination notice will be published on Wednesday and goes into effect 60 days later. It's among the latest Trump administration actions targeting the immigration system as officials work to make good on promises of cracking down on people illegally living in the U.S. and to carry out the largest mass deportation effort in U.S. history. Just to be clear, we're not talking about illegal immigration at this point. We're talking about people who have temporary protected status. They are legally allowed to be here. They are legally allowed to be here and even work. So we're no longer even talking about just quote illegal immigration, right? It's just if you're brown, we don't want you here, okay? That's let's be honest, that's really what's happening here. If you're brown, you need to get out. Does that impact then do the work of discrimination? I'm not following. You're gonna have to reword that. Congress created Temporary Protection Service in 1990 to prevent deportations to countries suffering from natural disasters, civil strife, giving people authorization to work in increments of up to 18 months. About 1 million immigrants from 17 countries are protected by TPS. Venezuelans are one of the largest beneficiaries. In that decision, the Department of Homeland Security said conditions had improved enough to Venezuela to warrant ending protective status. Cool. Based on what? Kristi Noem's trying out for the village people. She's already dressed up as a cop and a cowboy. Noem also said that TPS designation has been used to allow people who otherwise didn't have an immigration pathway to settle in America. Quote, the sheer numbers have resulted in associated difficulties in local communities, the Secretary decision says. She also cited members of the, quote, Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua, as well as among those coming to the U.S. Yes, the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua, definitely trying to come in here seeking temporary protective status so that they can work. Yeah, a thing that's happening. The gang originated in a lawless prison in the state of Aragua more than a decade ago, but has expanded in recent years as millions of desperate Venezuelans fled President Nicolas Maduro's rule and migrated to parts of Latin America or the U.S. During his campaign, Trump repeatedly hammered at dangers posed by the gang, sparking criticism that he was painting all immigrants as criminals. It's exactly what he's doing. Also, like, I'm not saying that, like, international gangs aren't a problem, but, like, to the extent that, they are, like, it's always been that way, ? There's no, like, this isn't unique. This isn't, like, some, like, unique thing. Nor is it something that, like, is our normal systems of law can't manage. But, they're brown, so. EU just gave unanimous support to Greenland's sovereignty being a proximity member of a member state. Nice. The impacts caused by this attack on immigrants breaching or challenging protections, it's discrimination, isn't it? It is. Blatantly. It's just not, who's stopping him? That's the thing. I'm not disagreeing with you, and I agree with you. This is a direct attack on immigrants simply because of who they are, legal or otherwise, right? It's simply because they're brown. And in a sane and normal circumstance, this would be discrimination because it is discriminatory. I'm not disagreeing. It's just nobody's stopping him. People who the GOP think are illegal, Democrats, anyone with a funny-sounding voice, anyone with skin darker than enriched wheat, anyone who sounds smarter than they are. Correct. Yeah, discrimination. We need to stop letting this happen. Yeah, I mean, like, the thing is, like, no one is. No one is. The Democratic Party hasn't said F all. In fact, when it comes to immigration, they've pivoted more to the right. I mean, like, we were, everyone here saw the campaign strategy of Vice President Harris as to how they took that issue. And here we are. Like, it's just so frustrating. The people who are supposed to stop this from happening are the ones doing the discriminating. In the waning days of the Biden administration, Noam's predecessor, Alejandro Mayorkas, extended the protection to Venezuelans until 2026. But Noam has revoked that decision. The U.S. doesn't have diplomatic relations with Venezuela, limiting deportation options, but the Trump administration says he made securing deportation of Venezuelans a top goal. Cool. On Friday, his envoy for special missions, Richard Grenell, traveled to Venezuela and met with Maduro. 6 American prisoners there were released following that meeting. After the visit, Trump wrote on his social media site, Truth Social, that Venezuela agreed to receive back their citizens, potentially breaking the deportation logjam. Venezuela's government has so far not confirmed that they will take back their citizens. Trump took similar steps during his first term when he tried to end temporary protected status for people from El Salvador, Haiti, Honduras, Nepal, Nicaragua, and Sudan. But immigration advocacy groups sued, keeping the restrictions from being pulled. The news of termination notice was first reported by the Times, the New York Times. They're probably kept out of their power system and discrimination is dominating. Yeah, I mean, in any case, there's no guardrails at this time. We are completely just it's just they're running wild with this. They're running wild with this, and it sucks because it's gonna hurt a lot of people. A lot of people are gonna be screwed by this administration. Including people who presumably voted for this administration. So, yeah. It is incredibly, incredibly frustrating. As I've said before, collectively as a country, we decided to put the quarter in the jukebox so we all get to dance. All right, folks. I think it's time for me to go get some dinner, and thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. For all the folks that are here, thank you, and folks, thank you so much for being here. It really does mean a lot. Even if you're just hanging out here, in times like these, it's nice. It's nice to just have a community, to just hang out here. So please, thank you for hanging out and being in the stream, even if you're just watching, even if you're just listening, and even if you're just hanging out in the chat. Thank you. I appreciate it. You guys are the real MVPs. Thank you guys. If you want to continue to support the channel, some of the best ways of doing so is please lend me your eyeballs, okay? Lend me your eyeballs. We're all in this together. Just being here really does help. Also, spread the word. We're here Monday through Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern. Bring a friend, folks. If you want to support the channel directly, there are a couple of ways of doing so. Consider checking out the merch store and hitting that ! tip if you want to support the channel directly. Thank you. Also, join the Discord, folks. It's completely free, and there's lots of wonderful folks in the Discord. We also do movie events as well. Thank you, and hey, consider checking out the Substack as well. Hugs of all of chat and the trolls. Yes, exactly. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate it, folks. As I was saying on the Discord, folks, listen, this is a very tenuous time, and a lot of us we just haven't seen anything like this. We know how fascism is. We know how fascism works. We know what to look for. We know it's here, but experiencing it is something different. Entirely. I know this is difficult. I know these are scary times. I know these are these are very scary times. People are scared, angry, frustrated, and you know what? That's okay. That's okay. To feel that way, because it'd be weird if you didn't. Okay? It'd be weird if you didn't. And my point being on the Discord is, we have to do what we can to not lose hope. And as I was saying earlier, it is our job to try to be as calm and collected as possible, and more important, to be ready to stand by each other, because that's all we've got, folks. That's all we've got. And I end the pinned comment with this: fascism never wins. It never has and never will. So you know what? We're still here, and so we continue. Okay. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it. We're gonna get out of here. It's time for some food and time for some rest. Yeah, it feels bad, man. It's difficult, folks. This is the real deal. This is the real deal. I appreciate you guys being here as always, folks. Please stay safe. Please take care of each other. If you plan to go on protest in the next couple of days, do your due diligence, and be safe. Okay? Be safe. Be together. Make sure you have your information on your hand in a permanent marker. If you can, if you do have your phone on you, put it on airplane mode. Make sure that you don't have any type of biometric access to your phone, so that cops can't force you to access your phone. So just the precautions, and more importantly, stay together, folks, and take care of each other. Take care of your health, chat. Yes, that's number one. Please, even if, again, number one, if that's just being in community, so be it. If you need to take time off, if you need a day off, take a day off work. If you need to, whatever it is, do it. Take care of your health. That's more important above everything. And thank you guys for being here. Sock now, hey, welcome and welcome and goodbye. Just hang tight for the raid. as we keep spreading the love. Thank you guys as always. Spread the word far and wide. We're here Monday through Thursday. Please stay safe. Please take care of each other. I love you all, and I hope to see you guys in the next one tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you guys. See ya. Thank you, Heat, and thank you, Michael Hassler, for the mods as well. Thank you. Appreciate it. Hang tight. Thank you, Mouselander. Yeah, join the YouTubes. All right, folks, hang tight. We're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bye-bye.